In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. I am this week returning to sort of the mail box or the mailbag because so many of you write to me. I always love to receive your letters. I think they can probably put the address up on the screen where you can write to me if you wish. If you're asking for the email address, you can keep asking forever. There isn't one. But if you'd like to send an old-fashioned letter, please do. Sometimes it takes me rather a while to respond, but I do try to respond to everyone eventually. Sometimes, such as today, I like to take some of the questions that I ask and deal with them when I think that it might be of benefit to people more broadly. And so is the case with a query that came most recently in a letter from someone in Canada, but is something that I'm asked about constantly in the context of confession and with my spiritual children and others, and that might be fruitful to talk a little bit about. And this is the struggle with the passion of lust. This is something that people understandably don't like to talk about very much because it deals with elements of desire and activity that are quite rightly embarrassing to people and shameful in certain ways. And yes, we can and will talk about shame as Orthodox Christians. We don't run away from this word or the acknowledgement that certain things that we think and do are shameful. But these are realities with which the vast majority of people struggle, perhaps more than almost any other set of temptations. We are spiritual and bodily creatures as human beings. This is how the Lord God fashioned us, and this is ever what we shall be. We await not the resurrection of the soul, but the resurrection of the soul and body together, to live eternally in this physical creation, albeit glorified, but yet this physical creation that we possess even now. And in this world, so divorced from its proper spiritual orientation, the focus of the physical so often becomes selfish, and the desires of the fleshly elements of our creation, rather than being directed in a positive way after the fashion that God has created them, tend to follow the inclinations of our souls and minds, which become increasingly selfish and self-centered, such that even the physical aspects of our being become focused on selfishness, self-gratification, whether that's something that we accomplish by illicit, lustful activities with other people or with ourselves. In either case, we are taking the desires that might be used for good and turning them against ourselves and also possibly against others. Lust, in this sense, is a perversion of the power of the heart. The heart has tremendous power as God has fashioned it, and that power, as image-bearing of God's own being, is a power to give, to sacrifice unto others. The love of which a human creature is possible to a degree that no other creature amongst the symphony of wonderful creatures that the Lord has made, the human, to a degree unlike any other, is able to image God's love, in that the human can willingly, consciously, continually use that love in sacrifice for the other, can take the power that God has bestowed within the heart and use it to care for another, to embrace another, to sacrifice for another, to look after another, to help another, to sanctify another. This is an aspect of what it means to be in the image of God Himself, who as Trinity is always actively bestowing love. The Father loves the Son, the Father loves the Spirit, and God's love is so great that it acts outside itself, creating this very world of which we are a part. And that is what we image in our creation. We image that love, a love that moves beyond itself, out of itself, in offering, in giving. That's what love is meant to be. That's the tremendous, unique power that God bestows in the human heart. Lust, by a certain definition at least, is a perversion of that very gift. Lust is what happens when that tremendous power of the heart to give, to go beyond itself, is turned inwards, reflected back on itself, and focused on itself rather than the other. When we do this, though we bear God's image, we do in that degree cease to become examples of His likeness, because God's self-sacrificing, self-giving love is always being given for the other. But when we, who bear that image, instead turn it around so that it aims at us, that is not to be like unto God, whose image we bear. And that is both an identification of what lust is, but also an explanation of why it has such a grip over so many people. Because the power of the heart is one of the strongest forces in the universe. It is God's own strength given to us who bear His image. And when we abuse that power, when we misuse that power, the strength of that error is powerful as well. So when we turn that love that we ought to be using to give to our brother, to our sister, to our friend, father, mother, enemy, everyone, when instead we turn it around towards ourselves, the force with which we are disfiguring ourselves is profound. This isn't a little nudge. This is and many people describe this in their confessions. It's like vice grips on their soul. I don't want to do this, but I can't stop. I don't want to think this way, but I can't stop. I don't want to act this way, but I can't stop. It's just chaining me, gripping me. That's the power of the heart, that great strength that God has given, that with it we might sanctify creation with Him, is instead being used for self-gratification, to please ourselves, to make me happier, whatever that means. But most usually in the desire for others or the desire for pleasure, physical pleasure, that we might obtain. Either someone might go and commit adultery, enter into lustful relationships, might enter into self-abuse, or might simply engage in constant mental imaginations or other such things. The power to fall into that is overwhelming and gripping. So what do I do? What does one do when one feels this enslaving, seemingly unconquerable power of lust, whatever the desire to change? Here I will give one piece of counsel that has proven itself so many times effective for people. And always when I share this with someone in confession, when I give this counsel or in other contexts, there's always a sort of bemused smirch as, well, that sounds nice, but it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But in a way, that's precisely the point. When a person is struggling deeply, continually, perpetually with lust, with the desire for gratification, and particularly sensual gratification of some kind, when that struggle just seems not to be going anywhere, not being cured, not being healed, but just always being there perpetually, the counsel that I routinely give is to start working into your life deliberate opportunities to go and help someone who needs help. Go to an old age home, a care home, and ask how you can volunteer with the elderly residents. Go to a neighbor whose front lawn is disheveled and bring your lawnmower with you and offer to mow the lawn. Go to the old man or the old woman who lives across the street and offer to go do the grocery shopping. If you're living at home, and you're a teenager, for example, who struggle with this passion at least as much, if not sometimes much more than other people, go do the dishes after a meal without being asked to do it. Go do the chores, do the cleaning in a part of the house without anyone asking for this. Find ways to be of service to other people, to do something that helps another person without any gain for yourself. And as I say, this is usually when someone says, oh, that sounds very nice, Vladika, that's very compassionate and kind, but we were talking about my battle with lust. What has that got to do with anything? But it has precisely to do with it. When so much of one's spiritual strength is turned in on itself, is held captive and is actually working against us, it's almost impossible to simply say, in the presence of such an overwhelming power, to say, enough, I won't be lustful anymore. I won't have such thoughts anymore. The power is too strong. What you have to do is give the heart opportunities to do what it's supposed to do, which is give itself to others. You have to provide yourself with the opportunities to use the power of the soul for what God intends. And you can't react to sensuality with anti-sensuality unless you're willing to follow the example of some of the ascetics who literally ran away into caves in the deserts in order to completely remove themselves, but even there found the temptations. But what we can do is give the heart, give the mind, give the soul, the body, all of us, the whole human being, the opportunity to do what it should be doing. Let the heart function, let it breathe the way it's supposed to breathe. And what you will find, and I can say this having witnessed so many times how powerful this tool is, this approach is to helping people. What you will find, not all at once, not as a magic trick that makes all lust disappear, but what you will find is that the more you dedicate yourselves to these sorts of tasks, the less time your heart has to focus on itself. The more you are using your heart to give for others, the less it can focus on itself, and, more importantly, the less it desires to focus on itself. Because the reason lust feels bad, the reason that people intrinsically, inherently feel guilty about lustful things, is because that's not what the heart is supposed to do. It doesn't feel right. When you let the heart do what it should do, it will crave that much more than it craves this secondary existence that we've fed it for so long. Give your heart a chance to love the way it ought to love, and little by little, the resistance to lust will be strengthened, and you will be able to overcome this. Again, not all at once, and it will likely continue to be a struggle all through life, because there will always be that selfish temptation to return to ourselves, to focus on ourselves. But the more we strengthen ourselves in what is right, in what is good, the more the heart will crave what is right and what is good, and will be able to let go of the attraction of what is not. God bless you.
A blessed Lord's Day to all of you, brothers and sisters.
For November 17th, on which we commemorate Saint Gregory of Tours.
As we begin this new course in the St. John Chrysostom Catechetical School.
Now available on both Apple and Google Play stores.